Welcome back. Business Matters from the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce. I'm Simon Brackley with the Chamber, and my next guest is Ford Smith. Good to have you here.
Hey, Simon. Pleasure to be with you.
So Ford is represented at the Ford Smith Gallery, which is over on Palace Avenue. Of course, Indian Market Weekend, a lot of people in town looking at art, looking at the galleries in town, and I'm very pleased to have you here. Let's talk a little bit about how you got started as an artist.
I started early, about 10 or 11 years old. I think my mother spotted a little, artistic talent, and she provided me with some painting lessons. The unique part of that was the fact that I was living in Japan at the time. My father was in the Air Force. We were stationed in Japan, so living in this tiny little village outside the air base was an old Japanese master who taught painting. So that was my first experience. He spoke no English, I spoke no Japanese, but we communicated, and that was the beginning of my artistic adventures.
Do you see any Asian influence in your work because of that early start in Japan?
I probably don't see it myself, but I've had many collectors and people that love arts say that they see a Zen-like influence in the art. Once they point it out to me, I suppose it makes sense.
And so how did you get from Japan at 11 years old to Santa Fe in 2009?
Well, it was a long and interesting journey. Finally ended up in the States after high school and attended the University of Mississippi, where I had originally gone to study mathematics. I did well in school, and I had a mathematics scholarship, and I thought I was going to be a scientist or mathematician. After my first calculus class, I decided that perhaps art was more interesting. I slid over to the art department, and I never looked back.
It's still interesting, though, that you go from a mathematical, sort of logical, linear way of thinking, and then the artistic side emerges, which is the other side of the brain.
Yes. I've had a lot of engineers and mechanical type people that come into the gallery, and they're struck by something. They don't know exactly what it is, but then when I explain my mathematical background, they start to put it together, the logical side of the composition mixed with the artistic side. So I think it is blended in there. People see it subliminally.
So University of Mississippi, but you weren't doing an art degree.
I did end up with a BFA in painting at the university, and then basically decided to go east or west, and Atlanta seemed like a better alternative to me. So I went to Atlanta and started an advertising career, because I certainly didn't think I could make it as a fine artist at 21 years old. So I went down an advertising and design route, and that led me accidentally into a photography career that lasted 25 years.
Commercial photography?
Commercial photography, specializing in fashion. Okay. And I think, the fashion part of it is kind of important, I think, because my work is infused with lots of color. Probably the one thing people say about it is it is so colorful sometimes.
Definitely.
Putting colors together that people would never think of. And I think the only way I can explain that is to say that I was surrounded by fashion, the good, the bad, and the ugly, for 25 years. So I've seen every kind of color combination you can imagine. and it made me not afraid of color. I've had college professors come to me at shows and tell me that they've used my work to inspire their students to not be afraid of color. It seems to him and to me that many young people who start painting, get into very somber palettes and, very moody kind of things, and they avoid color at all costs because they're afraid they're going to put the wrong colors together. And my work inspires people to just be bold with color and just put it out there.
Well, it's certainly the thing that catches your eye the most. If you look either in your gallery or pieces of work on paper, the color really jumps out, the vibrancy of the colors that you use, particularly the reds that really pop, and that draws your eye into the rest of the scene and makes it work from there. And to me, it stands out in Santa Fe because we have the desert tones a lot in a lot of the work that's exhibited around here. But your work really pops out from those more subtle tones.
Well, the nice thing about Santa Fe, it is such a mecca of artistic talent and so many wonderful artists and art to choose from. the most wonderful thing that people say when they come into my gallery is that I've never seen anything quite like this. And when you're surrounded with so much great art, for someone to say that somehow you've developed something unique is the highest compliment I think an artist could get, to do something, original.
So let me ask you about the jump from commercial photography in Atlanta to Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Well, I owe a lot of that to my wife and business partner, Christy, who's with us today. She supported me when I made the decision to get out of photography, just sort of cold turkey. One day I was doing photographs, the next day I was doing painting. And, she certainly thought I was going through a midlife crisis because I was about 50 at the time. And but she put her support behind me and, allowed me to follow my dream. And a couple of years after that, when she saw that I was finally focused on something, or she helped me focus on the landscape genre that I'm doing, I persuaded her to leave her high-paying corporate job and take a leap of faith with me and become my business partner and run the business while I could focus on the creative side. So I owe really that part of the beginning of my career to her faith and her hard work and her marketing background.
Very brave decision to make a second start in life. I mean, you've obviously had some different chapters during your development, but to pack up a pretty secure corporate, regular paycheck kind of a gig to take on the uncertainty of the art world and the creative process takes quite a lot of courage to do that.
It's a Chevy Chase moment, like we like to say, this is crazy, this is crazy, this is crazy, before he jumps into the pool. But,
but he made the jump.
I've always been a very optimistic person and a very, can-do kind of a person, in spite of whatever's I come up against. And I knew, Christy had the same attitude. And we actually met working together. She was my client, I was a photographer, so we had known each other for many years, and we knew we worked together very well. So I think, it became a sort of a natural idea that we would just, put our resources together and go forward. And I think her involvement really kind of put me over the edge and got things rolling. And the other thing I have to say about Santa Fe, when I first started painting and was trying to get my work into galleries in Atlanta and different places, and a lot of doors were closed on me, I decided that I should come to Santa Fe. I had visited here in the 80s, and I knew the reputation. I decided to come to Santa Fe and go door to door with my portfolio and try to get into a gallery, so that, if you could make it here, you could make it anywhere kind of an attitude.
Yeah.
If I could get into a gallery in Santa Fe, then any other door would open for me anywhere in the country, and that's exactly what happened.
Start at the top. That's
exactly what happened.
Yeah.
We started at the bottom of Canyon Road and worked our way up. By noon, we had a couple of galleries interested, and we had a champagne lunch and celebrated.
Excellent. Well, going door to door and being ready for that rejection, again, takes a lot of courage. It's hard. Back in a former life, I did some door-to-door sales, and you get used to hearing no, no, no before you get a glimmer of a yes or a maybe. And
this is true. I mean, it's not easy to be rejected, but it's part of the art field, that's for sure. I mean, you've got to have a thick skin in this business, and we were persistent. We were prepared. I mean, our advertising background certainly gave us maybe an edge on how to market ourselves. So we went in looking a lot more accomplished than we actually were.
Do you get influence from New Mexico, from the landscapes here and the colors, the skies, and so on?
I do, but the way that I paint, I don't paint from photographs perhaps because of my photographic background. I didn't want to paint things that look like a photograph. And so I paint strictly from memory and from dream state and just intuitive process. So I tend to not paint a place when I'm at a place. So when I left Santa Fe, went back to Atlanta, I painted several paintings from memory of the feeling and the colors and the landscape. And we have some of those hanging in the gallery now.
So you absorb the place when you're here, but put it into the melting pot, if you like.
Yeah, let it process,
Okay.
And my paintings are a combination of places I've been, places I've dreamed about being, the unintended consequence of that, as far as the collectors are concerned, is different people see different places in the same painting. If I had painted it and named it so many, this is this creek or this valley, it would only make sense to certain people.
Sure.
But since it's someplace in my imagination, a lot of people see different places in it, and and they end up liking it for that reason.
And it might remind them of an experience they've had at a particular location, or a combination of those things together.
Exactly, or a place they'd like to be.
Well, that's true. A dreamlike part of that, and again, with the colors that you use, it intensifies that kind of experience.
Absolutely, I think the paintings make people happy, and I think if I can make people happy, I've achieved my goal.
Well, I really like your work. It's Ford Smith is with me from the Ford Smith Gallery over on Palace Avenue. We're coming up to another short break. I just want to take a second to talk about Indian Market. I know there's a lot of people in town who are here for the market this weekend. If you're visiting our community, I want to welcome you on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce. It's great to have you here. Hope you're enjoying your experience, and you go home and tell your friends and come back. This is our busiest weekend of the year. The parking's not always like this. It's a tough time to find a parking spot downtown, but if you don't mind walking a little bit, wear some comfortable shoes, and enjoy the community. We are very proud of Santa Fe. It's a wonderful place to be. It's a unique city, and the Chamber of Commerce is here to encourage people to come and visit and invest in the community and open businesses. And of course, we appreciate the business of art. Almost 200 galleries, I think, in Santa Fe. Lots of ways for artists to be seen and sell their work. So we're very pleased to do that. This is Simon Brackley with the Chamber of Commerce. We're taking another break. We'll be back with more with Ford Smith. Welcome back. This is Business Matters from the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce. I'm Simon Brackley from the Chamber, and we are speaking today with Ford Smith. We're talking about the business of art, very important in our community, very important this weekend with Indian Market going on. Ford, let's talk a little bit about your creative process. You talked about going to a particular place and absorbing that environment, and then you let that stir around in your mind before you start a painting. Tell me about the actual process of starting a painting. Do you see it on canvas before you start putting paint on, or you put paint on and then see how it develops? How does it work for you?
The latter. I certainly don't see anything on the canvas, before anything. But to give you the exact process, I usually spend an hour or so with my dogs walking through the woods. And since my subject matter is trees, it's like being immersed in your subject matter for an hour or so with my lovely Boston Terrier Belle. I have to give a shout out to Belle. I love that dog. So I immerse myself in the subject matter for an hour or so. Then I come back to the studio and I turn on my music. I always paint to music. And it's a variety of classical, jazz, R&B, any kind of, probably not hip-hop, but with rare exception. And then I began my painting process by covering the canvas in paint, just boldly dripping it, just slathering it on there, just sort of loosening up all the physical, the muscles, etc. It's like a little stretching exercise. And from that point, I either turn the canvas on its edge and let paint drip, or I throw water on it, or I throw sticks or other material, and I let things happen to the paint, and then lift things off, and then I step back and I see what I see. It's almost like a tea leaves kind of a process where you're looking down in there and you're getting some kind of figures or images. And then you build upon those. Now, the difference is that I'm always building upon a landscape image. I'm not looking for figurative images of that sort of thing.
Right.
So that's the beginning of my process. Once I start to see things, I start to develop them and bring them out. And I work in acrylic paint, which allows me the ability to be spontaneous, to change things immediately if I don't like the way they're going. So the idea of painting in oil, which I which I learned to do as a child and did all through my school, I found acrylic was much better suited to my style of painting, which is extremely intuitive, which is immediate, no pondering, not a lot of deliberation. One of my favorite quotes is, "Inspiration is for amateurs when it comes to painting." I get up, I go to work, and I paint. I don't wait for something to hit me or strike me. I just go through the process. It's like a writer just getting on a typewriter and starting to type, and then things start to happen.
So you're very business-like in that respect.
Yeah, exactly. We are, both Christy and I feel that we're in the art business. We're not just making art to please me. We're making art as a business to support ourselves, our family, and to hopefully create a legacy for our children.
Now, once you've worked on a piece for a while, do you ever set it aside and then come back to it at a later time and look at it with a fresh eye, or do you feel like it's finished and then you move on to the next piece?
No, I absolutely work on multiple pieces at the same time for that very reason.
Okay.
Whether it's to give a little more drying time, what I don't like to do is have a lot of downtime. Although I only probably paint continuously for 4 to 5 hours a day, I don't take any breaks within that period. What I do is if I reach a point where I don't know where to go next, I'll put that canvas aside and I'll start the process again, or pick up another canvas that's in process already, so that I'm always looking at the art with a fresh perspective. And it just keeps the energy level up. Like I said, the music is constantly going. And I put in, whatever hours I do dedicate to it, they're continuous. I rarely sit down. It's a very active endeavor.
And your subject matter, I'm not tremendously familiar with your work, but the pieces that I've seen tend to be the trees, the light, the rural scenes, those kinds of things.
Yeah, I'm definitely known for my trees, and people ask me, why trees, and it's a tough question. I go all the way back to when I first was influenced to paint and draw in Japan. My older sister at the time was a teenager, and there was a local Japanese boy who had an interest in her, and he came around, and as a way of flirtation, he would bring her drawings, and his drawings were always of trees. And I noticed them, and I started to copy the trees that he was drawing in the same style that he was drawing these trees, and I was probably 12 years old at the time.
Picking up flirtation techniques by the sound of it.
Exactly. I was just picking up tips on the way his techniques, and so I think that was a very early influence. Even during college, I have paintings that are extremely similar in their approach to the paintings I'm doing today. Trees with reflections and abstracted reflections. I try to take a subject that everybody's so familiar with, nature and trees, but add some sort of a creative spin and expressionistic style and abstraction of it. And I think that's what people are drawn to. It's abstract, but it's still recognizable as something.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your wife is here as well. Christy Smith is with us. She's your business manager, as you say. I wanted to ask you, Christy, about the experience of being in a gallery. You were in a gallery in Atlanta, I believe. Fort's work was exhibited there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Hello. Yeah, we did. We decided to open up our own gallery after having exhibited locally with cooperative gallery, and then step up to the next level gallery. With our background in retail, we decided that we could do as good a job as just about anybody. So
what's the challenge been in running your own gallery? Has it been surprising in any way?
Well, we've done this now for almost 7 years since we opened the gallery in Atlanta. We've been 2 years here in Santa Fe. And every month there are new surprises in this business. The art industry is exciting. It's exhilarating. It's very passionate. And dealing with other artists and employees and what have you is something that we've had to, adjust to, and we've embraced. But
and how's Santa Fe treating you? Well, I hope.
We love Santa Fe. It's very inspirational for both of us.
Excellent. I've been speaking with Ford Smith. His work is on display at the Ford Smith Gallery, 135 West Palace, Suite 101. Stop by and take a look. The phone number over there is 988-3732 or online fordsmithfineart.com, or call us at the Chamber and we can connect you over there. Go to our website, search for Ford Smith, and we can link you right over to his website. Ford, thanks for taking the time to be here.
Simon, it was a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. This is Business Matters from the Santa Fe Chamber of Commerce. Just a reminder again, if you're interested in signing up for the Leadership Santa Fe program, the deadline's